So Matt, the first talk is called Art and the New Evangelization, so I'm going to leave it over to Matt.
Good evening. Very good on my part. Good evening.
Let me raise this up here. Is that any better? Awesome. How's everybody doing? Good? I'm already getting negative feedback. Just making sure you're awake. All right. Actually, let's just do this, huh? All right. So, I have an incredible message for you this evening. And I have an incredible amount of work to get through in 25 minutes. So, we're going to begin. My name is Matt Loboda. In Polish, it's actually pronounced Loboda. It has a little bit better of a ring to it, so maybe I'll start publishing myself like that. I was at church earlier today. I'm on my stewardship committee at St. John the Evangelist Church in Naples, Florida, so right across the Alligator Alley. And there's an old gentleman who's on the committee, and I think he's the head of the committee because he built half the church through his generous donation. And we were walking out, and my pastor said, in my best Irish brogue, "Hey man, where are you going?" That's more Polish, right? I'm not an actor. And I said, I'm going over to Miami later on today. And Bob said, "Why you?" And I said, "That's a great question." So as I was driving over, I said, "Yeah, why me? Why, Lord, did you ask me to do this?" And I had some just extremely important messages that I wanted to share with you today. One, I'm here because I'm a lover of the arts. My wife, Kristen, I want to thank for letting me be here tonight. She's always at home taking care of the kids, letting me run out and read and write and prep for talks. So we're a team in this, and she's praying for me and you. And Kristen said, "That's pretty funny, you're talking about art and evangelization. You can't draw. You can't hold a note." And I said, "But I'm good looking, right?" She said, "That's why I married you." And I'm a lover of John Paul II. I have 90% Polish blood running through me. We'll say 100%, we'll round up, okay? And my dad served the Mass for the Pope when he was a young boy, when he was still a cardinal. I grew up in Slavic Village in Cleveland, Ohio. And so everyone was a ski, or like Karl Wojtyła, I was Loboda. So, we have this Polish blood flowing through us, and my dad's godfather, not blood related, was second cousins to the Pope as well. So, I have all these connections, and I love this man because he was often referred to as the peasant philosopher. Can you imagine that? The peasant philosopher. John Paul II was worried about the thing in itself, life as it is. He wasn't worried about having these abstractions, syllogisms, annotations, documentation for his teaching. What he wanted to deal with was humanity as it is. And he was convinced that what he suffered and the world suffered through with World War II and World War I was a misconception of the human person. That misconception of the human person allowed for lakes of blood to be spilled and millions of lives to be taken. And that's why I want to make sure that, especially tonight, that I encourage you. I titled this talk here, "The Threshold," because we as a people in the United States are at a threshold. Brother Webster says a threshold is a strip of wood or metal or stone forming the bottom of a doorway. And it's crossed as you enter a house or a room. So I want to put that out for you tonight, that this is a threshold in time. that we're at a threshold, we're going to step one way or another. Especially because of our election, you can step one way or another. You can step into the threshold, over the threshold into hope and opening up and becoming who you're supposed to be in Christ, or you can step over that threshold and become someone of despair and someone locked in and someone isolated. So that's the theme, threshold. John Paul II, his message is extremely important for us today when it pertains to art and evangelization, because Benedict XVI, in his interview with Peter Sewall, was it Light of the World? Has anyone read that here? In Light of the World, in his interview, Benedict XVI said that we can no longer presuppose the gift of faith. That faith is no longer something that we can take for granted, that people have been enculturated with, that it's in their culture. No longer is that a valid place to depart from. Benedict XVI even went so far, talk about just grace following grace. He went so far to say we need to have a new verbiage, a new way of using words, so that we can transmit the faith. John Paul II, in the same way, said, let me find this about Pentecost, beautiful. I had it highlighted here, annotated, cross-referenced. I am the peasant philosopher, by the way. He says the church, so this is JP2, May 12, 2002, World Communications Day. He says the church in every age continues the work begun on the day of Pentecost, when the apostles in the power of the Holy Spirit went forth into the streets of Jerusalem to preach the gospel of Jesus in many tongues. Through succeeding centuries, this evangelization mission spread to the far corners of the earth as Christianity took root in many places and learned to speak the diverse languages of the world, always in obedience to Christ's command to preach the gospel to every nation. Amazing, because he says this: in every age, our age, we continue the work done on the day of Pentecost. If our language is archaic, or people do lack the presupposition of understanding the message of the gospel, what better way to transmit truth and goodness and beauty than through the arts? It goes across every language. It goes across every culture. You can hear the beauty of music, whether you speak that language or not, or in a painting. I think it's brilliant that the Pope is able to see this and says we need to move forward. I have a couple stories I want to share with you. So Bob, when I was walking out of church today, said, "So why you, Matt?" So I'm driving away. I said, "Yeah, why me?" Well, Frank called me, but Frank talked to my friend Chris. I knew Chris from Steubenville. I've talked some places. I said, "Oh, the Lord, from a young age, Jesus, captured my heart. I do not know any other way to live than to follow Christ. I don't always do it, but I don't know any other way." From a little guy, I remember washing dishes with my parents at Christmas, asking them, "What does this mean, the Alpha and the Omega, no beginning, no end?" Must have been 5 years old. My oldest boy, Isaiah, asked the same kind of questions. Love it. But I was captured. Christ captured my heart. And through growing up and going to high school, going to college, I was dating a pretty girl. Threshold. I think she laughed when I said I was dating a pretty girl. Is that true? So there was a threshold for me to move from. I was dating this pretty girl. And God was leading me to the friary. Who knows the CFRs in here? Does anyone know the CFRs? Franciscans of the Renewal. They're Franciscans. Frank talked about Father Stan. Who knows Father Stan? Just a couple people, okay. So they're a renewal form of the Franciscans. I lived up in New York with Father Stan across from his room. My religious name was Brother Isaiah. And he would knock on my door at 3 a.m. like this. "Yo, Izzy. That's what he called me. "My name's Matt, but when you go into the friar, you get a religious name." So they named me Brother Isaiah. So I would wake up. "Yeah, Father Stan." Goes, "I forgot. I gotta get to the airport. Can you drive me? Wow. So I grabbed my habit. He goes, yo! He thought I was his roadie. He goes, bring down those boxes. They were huge, like 2 times. He'd have all the CDs, all the equipment. You know how it is, right? So in Harley Davidson of Friary, the walkway was very, very tiny. And I walked down the steps, it was so loud. Hysterical. And then we drive off to the airport and I drop him off. So the Lord captured my heart. I fell in love with him, he fell in love with me. He brought me to the Friary and then he brought me out. Another threshold. I was working with the kids in the Bronx and the projects, and this little girl, I just saw her 2 summers ago. Her name was Jasmine. She was 2 at the time. Remember, my name was Isaiah, my brother Isaiah. She climbs up on top of me. She looks down into my eyes upside down. She goes, yo, brother Isaiah, I love you. Boom. Rocked my world. I knew when I was going into the Friary that I wasn't going to have a wife. I knew that. It wasn't like a non-disclosure agreement. We knew, as a Franciscan, you will not have a wife. Okay? All of a sudden, I said, whoa, I will not have any kids. So, it happens all the time, though. A cute girl walks down the street, Miss Susie Q, and you say, Lord have mercy. I've got to go back with brother long beard, sticky feet, sleep on the floor, and eat food that's been stale for 3 days. And there she goes. And what do? You go back to the chapel, you kneel down, you recommit, ask the Lord to bless you, and you keep on going. That's what you do. Because you do that in marriage, you do it as a priest, as a brother, as a sister, as a wife, whatever. So, I did that. I said, Lord, I don't understand. Something happened. It stayed. Lots of spiritual direction, lots of talking, and finally, it was time for me to leave. Another threshold. You guys get the threshold thing? One of my big things is, like, when you guys leave, I gave a talk after this little nun this summer. Her name was Mother Olga from Boston. They call her the Mother Teresa of Iraq, right? Holy smokes. She gets up there and she's walking around. Now, she is the smallest person at the retreat, okay? And I am the biggest person at the retreat. And she's just walking around. I tell you about Jesus and how to evangelize. Love him. Love him. Then I have to follow her. I was like the closing act, you know? And I'm like, oh, goodness. She had a simple message. I got to get up there and I got to be all theatrical. I am artist. My mother said I was born for the big screen. Get it? Big screen? My grandmother said I had a voice or a face for radio. So, I pray. There's a threshold. It's time to leave. Lord, what are you doing? He captured my heart. Why am I telling you this story? Every night, unless I'm not home like tonight, I tell my kids stories. Isaiah is my firstborn. Isaac is my second. 6 and 4. Grace, all of them are awesome. Grace is 2, super cute. All of them look like my wife. That's called power of prayer. And my 4th, it's starting to hurt, you know. And my 4th, we just had our 4th, and her name is Hope, and she was born about 4 weeks ago. So every night I tell them stories. And you guys are really gonna laugh at this. So Isaiah's name in the story is Zayo. Isaac's name is Zacco, and Grace's name is Gracco. You guys see this theme here? And they're on an adventure, and they each have these special powers, and they're on a mission from King Dado, and Queen Mother shows up and all this stuff. And I just look around the room, and I'm like, so there was a lamp, and that's how I start my story. But it's awesome because they're always, hey Dad, tell us about the adventure. Tell us about. And I'm trying to convey to them that life is a journey, okay? And through that journey, that we have something in our nature that's actually connected to something more, that's actually above more, that transcends who we are. And I'm trying to start that at a young age through telling them stories. And stories are such a great way, whether it's written, or it's on the TV, or it's told through song to convey a message that's even deeper. I remember I go to the Met in New York City. On the second floor, there was this picture of this woman with blonde hair, and I would be arrested by her, captured by her picture as I walked by. It was telling me something of the more that God has inscribed in my heart and yours. So we're talking about the threshold. We're talking about crossing over. We're talking about going to the more. We're talking about the beautiful, the good, and the true. So in little Sophia's eyes, little Jasmine's eyes, I saw the good. It was that one moment, and it arrested me. It captured me. And the Lord was asking something else. And I had to cross the threshold. Next time I go like this, you guys go threshold, all right? All right. Participation, I like it. They said I have 1 hour. Are you comfortable? My wife always says, stay simple, don't get all complicated. Yes, I could hear her in my head right now. So John Paul II wants us to understand that there's something more. And he talked about truth. And he said this, to say that human beings can't live without truth, that without truth we die, just as we die without water or food. Human beings have a thirst for truth built into us. And that thirst is best met by the gospel of Christ. Now, check this out. I love this. So we have a thirst for truth. The gospel of Christ hits us. And in Christ's face, we see the Father of mercy. We have a thirst for truth, who is Christ. Go to the gospel. The gospel takes us to the Father of mercy. I love that. Feedback. Now, truth, quick story for you. When I was Brother Isaiah, Franciscan, I was there for 9/11. I was living on 142nd and Broadway. Tragic day. Think of that image in your mind. Those towers. What does that speak to you? It can speak a message across all cultures, right? All barriers, all languages. And so we went down for 9/11 to help out. We went down to Chelsea Piers. And Chelsea's Piers, they got a big skating rink. They were going to use that as a morgue. And the bishop had asked us to go there to be there for the families. And so we were waiting and waiting, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Nobody's coming. Nobody's showing up. Nobody realized that the buildings, the towers, as they fell, that they would pulverize anyone that was in there. So it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and nothing below 34th Street, the Empire State Building, that area, was running. So we had to walk across town, and you know New York City blocks are huge. It's not like a block in Naples. We don't even have blocks in Naples. We don't have sidewalks in Naples. We don't even have young people in Naples. Just making sure you're listening. If I go on a comedy tour, I'm taking you guys. Look me up on Facebook. I don't have a Facebook. All right. So we walk, and we are about 2 blocks away from the from the first bus that's running. And as we walked by, there's a homeless guy sitting on the street. And so we talked to him, and anytime we went out, people would always be asking us for money and whatever. We didn't have money to give, so what we would do is we would make sandwiches. And we had really long hoods, and we would take those sandwiches and put them in our hoods. So our hoods would just be filled with sandwiches. So when a homeless person would come and be like, yo brother, I'm hungry, I haven't eaten for days. I go, oh cool, here you go. They wanted a 5 spot, I had peanut butter and jelly. So this guy was talking, and we said, hey, you know what's going on? He's like, yeah man. And he weighed like 10 pounds. He's like, yeah. McDonald's, they forgot to give me my French fries. I'm like, man, like the Twin Towers just fell, and you think you didn't get your French fries. So we give him a sandwich, we get him some coffee from this restaurant across the street. People were, I'm not kidding you, people across the way were sitting there that night at 9/11, sipping wine. You could see the smoke and the rubble. It was like coming our way, and they were sitting there sipping wine. So we started walking. Talk about a contrast, right? And all of a sudden, down the street, this police van comes ripping down Broadway on the speaker, yelling, "Run south, run south. There's a bomb." And after the van, there are thousands of people running down Broadway. It was like Godzilla. Like people just screaming and running. And I was like, what is going on? So me and Brother Mark, we turn and we start running, and we see the homeless dude who weighs 10 pounds. We pick them up. Each by arm, we just start running. And Brother Mark's like, come in here. I run in this building. It's like a glass bank. I'm like, this is the worst place to be. So we take the guy, and we just run, and we go hide behind this desk. And it was a crazy night. And then we started walking, and Father Brian said, he was from France. ¿Cómo se va? I have the Blessed Sacrament. I was like, you got the Blessed Sacrament the whole time? And you didn't tell me? I would not have been afraid if I knew the Blessed Sacrament was with me when Godzilla was running down Broadway and blow me up. And he's like, this is why I like you. He's like, you are a typical American. Yeah, looked like Brad Pitt, good looking dude, that's why. Holy smokes, I'm running out of time, 4.5 minutes. So we talked about the good, when I saw that goodness in that little girl's eyes, right? Talking about truth, I'm giving you the opposite of truth when it comes to lies and falsehood and violence and anger. John Paul II used that word. I love this, pulverized. The reason why things were able to be done to people is because the concept of the human person was pulverized, that they could be used, that they were just a piece of the society. Amazing. So we did the good, we did the true, the beautiful. This is a long story, real quick, okay? 4 years ago, I celebrated, holy smokes, my 31st birthday. We just came back from Indianapolis. My wife, Kristen, beautiful blonde. Maybe like that in the Met, that picture of the blonde. Came home with our 2 kids. And I woke up, and you ever have like a finger or like a hangnail, and it like just bothers you? Like it's almost like someone could like slam a brick on your hand, but just like a little hangnail gets ripped off. No, you're all tougher than me. So I woke up, I'm like, man, my thumb is really bothering me. And I look, and it's purple. Think that's funny? It's like I can't even see, like this nice lady's purple right there. All right? So I show my wife, and she goes, you better go to the doctor. I'm like, you better, but I'm going to the doctor. Doctor had no idea what was going on. He said, you better go to the ER. I said, why don't you call the ambulance? He goes, you'll get there faster. I'm like, all right. So I jump in my car. My hand is turning purple. My wife, I call, I said, I don't know what's going on. She said, I'm passed her down, hand up into my arm, purple. That started off a whole huge journey. My Jeep knows how to get to this hospital right down the road, University of Miami. I had to come here once every week for 6 months, once every other week for the next 6 months, and then once a month up until about a year ago. It came down that I had these crazy genetic disorders, anticardial lipid disorder that increased clotting. My goodness, I mean, you name it, it was like craziness. 31, 2 kids. And I thought, is there more? Is this it? Am I checking out? Am I St. Therese? I'm not St. Therese, all right? I am the big Wayne. If she was the little Wayne, I'm the big Wayne. And so I had a doctor. They thought I had cancer. I had fibromyalgia. A year and a half ago, I was on 18 pills. Okay, and every time that my little doctor down the road goes, here, you take this pill. I'm like, what's it gonna do? It'll make you gain weight. I'm like, come on, man. Like most people when they die, they get skinny. I've never been skinny. You guys know huskies? You probably don't know those yet. I was got to go to the husky section when I was little. Anyways. So I had to inject, my blood was so therapeutically thin that if I cut myself, I would have to be rushed to the ER. It was a nightmare. And I can't attribute this to John Paul II because we were praying to everybody, and everybody was praying to everybody. I mean, I had missionaries in the Philippines praying to everybody. But I can stand here and tell you right now that I'm completely healed. I have not taken any medicine, 18 pills a day, and injecting, and it turned my stomach purple too. So I started looking like Barney. My arm's purple, my stomach's purple. I was like, what is going on? And the Lord healed me. If that story doesn't tell you of beauty, okay, of more, of that greatness of God, truth, goodness, and beauty, I don't know what does. So let me leave you with this message. The threshold, art, can help us cross that threshold. We as people, as unique human beings, can get to that threshold no matter what's going on in the ugliest of circumstances and still see the good, the true, and the beautiful. Because in our nature, we are wired to Him. I appreciate your time. I'll pray for you. Bless you all. Thank you.